1,125 people attended the proceedings of the Congress online yesterday. And before I give the floor to Mr. Ktenidis and his guests, who are going to be the panelists for the first session, please allow me to read the message sent by Mr. Stavros Kalafatis, Deputy Minister for Development. Dear Director, I would like to send my greetings to the 11th GAIA Congress, aiming to show the steps of development and growth and the achievements of the agricultural sector and the collaboration sought in order to achieve the goals of the CAP. One of these priorities is the connection of the productive and academic sources with production, with specific incentives, and for the development of innovative actions that will focus on innovation and competitiveness and the Greek primary sector. My participation in the Council for Competitiveness in Brussels, unfortunately, has prevented me from attending the Congress. Thank you very much for your invitation. I wish you all the best in your proceedings. Now, I'd like to ask Mr. Ktenidis to come to the floor. He is going to present us an extremely interesting study on the topic of the implementation of the Common Agricultural Policy in Greece, legal and institutional challenges. Thank you very much indeed. Good morning. I would also like to welcome you to the second day of the proceedings of the 11th GAIA Congress. I have the pleasure to present to you today part of a study assigned by GAIA EPICHEIREIN to the Center of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, the Center for European Legal Culture. And I would like to present to you my colleagues who are going to participate in this discussion: the Dean of the Faculty of Law of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Mr. Glavinis, who is a professor of international economic law; Professor Demosthenis Lendis, who is a professor of European Union law, who is also the scientific advisor for the study; Mr. Pantazopoulos, who is a professor in taxation law and is going to comment on the study; and two researchers who hold master's degrees in public law, Mr. Panagiotis Viopoulos and Mr. Achilleas Kyriazopoulos. Before I give the floor to my colleagues, I would like to make some introductory comments. First of all, to explain what our center involves. The Center for European Legal Culture is the research axis of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in European law. It is an independent unit that was established and is controlled by the Senate of the university, but it is also operationally connected to the Faculty of Law and studies European legal culture as a foundation, as a tool for the development of the European Union, since law is at the heart of European integration. Part of the goals of the center is to undertake and elaborate various studies, and it is to this center that the GAIA EPICHEIREIN assigned the preparation of a survey regarding the implementation of the CAP in Greece from a legal perspective. Let me clarify that this study now is in progress. At the beginning of our preparation, the workshop was organized in which various stakeholders participated and the specific topics were defined. What we are focusing on is the financing aspect of the CAP. That is the financial support provided by the EU to the member states in order for them to channel this financial support to the various beneficiaries with the goal to achieve the goals of the CAP according to the strategic plan of each member state. The subject of this particular study is how, within our national law, the relevant rules have been incorporated, required as per European law, with regard to providing such support. I'd like to say from the outset that this is a highly technical issue and quite demanding and legislation to study both national and European. That's why it has not been studied from a legal perspective in Greece or in Europe to date. Let me give some basic guidelines now, some basic information about what we're going to be discussing. So in order to systematize the national legislation which applies the requirements of the European law within this field, what is required is to place the European legislation within a more systematic context as applied in Greek law. Let me just say a couple of words about this. Those of you in the room and those attending online obviously know that already from 2003, European law is based, theoretically speaking at least, on a new model, the new delivery model, as it is known. So the implementation model, as it is called in Greek, whose characteristic is that the functioning of this mechanism is based on the member state achieving the goals set in the member state's strategic plan. That is, the financial support depends on whether the goals of each country's strategic plan have been achieved. And this is in contrast to the compliance model that was used previously. According to the general plan implemented in the past, this financial support only depended on the legality of the various procedures linked to the aid being forwarded to the various beneficiaries. So we have a shift in legislation from legality to performance on an EU level, which leads to the next question. And what about legality? Is it no longer important? That is, this shift of the model towards performance and whether each member state is achieving its goals regarding its agricultural policy, does that mean that the previous example of legitimization is no longer important? Well, the answer is not clear, actually, because according to the new model, a precondition for receiving financial support on different terms now is proper functioning on the level of the member state of various governance systems. The term governance system is key now to the new financing model because that is what the financial support is based on. What are we talking about when we use the term national governance systems? Well, to put it simply, they consist of two pillars. First, it has to do with the governance bodies, that is, the various national organizations that are entrusted with the implementation of this specific law. And the second pillar has to do with the whole of national legislation, which ensures, from the point of view of the national law, the legitimacy of providing this financial support so that the financial interests of the EU are also safeguarded. So a couple of things need to be in place, basically, within the member state, so that if it achieves its goals, it receives this financial support. First of all, it needs to have governance bodies according to the specifications of EU law, and also to have a national framework of laws which ensures that what is within the strategic plan is actually put into practice. One might ask, and why are the financial interests of the EU important within this context? Well, they are because this financial support comes out of the EU budget and its own resources and money, which, to put it simply, the member state simply is in charge of managing or functioning, quote unquote, as a tool of the EU and through its specific governance bodies, in this case, the Payment Authority. So, since we're talking about EU resources which are allocated to beneficiaries, the role of the member state in this framework is to implement EU legislation, and it's for that reason that the system applied within the member state must be compatible with the specifications that are in place. So, as I said, the study is in progress. The subject of our study has evolved into national governance systems, and we have chosen to present three specific aspects today. The first has to do with the organization of the clearance organizations and auditing organizations of this part of the EU budget and of the various funds. So the first presentation by Mr. Vopoulos will function on that and how this was applied in Greece in 2003, which was the first financial year when these new rules came into force. The second part, which will be presented in more detail, has to do with governance bodies as organized in Greece and as they function to date. And thirdly, at the end, Mr. Lentis, who is a scientific advisor of this study, will refer to a slightly more technical issue that has to do with the legal dimensions of the National Strategic Plan. So let me hand over right away to my colleague, Mr. Viopoulos, who is going to present to us the organization of the clearance agencies and auditing within the framework of the EU budget.
Καλημέρα σας.
Good morning. Thank you very much for doing us the honor to invite us. Thank you very much, Mr. Ktenidis, Mr. Lentis, Mrs. Kyriazopoulos, Mr. Pandazopoulos, and the Dean, Mr. Glavinis. The object of my presentation, as Mr. Thamidis mentioned, is to analyze the clearance processes and the auditing of expenditure of the Guarantee Fund and the CAP. And the Agricultural Fund within the framework of the CAP 2021-2027. It will follow a specific structure that has to do with the shared management of the EU budget. Then we'll talk about the types of control according to Regulation 2016. There will be a quick evaluation of its implementation focusing on the Greek case, and then a quick assessment as to whether the declared objective of the new CAP, which is simplification and a focus on performance rather than on legality and compliance, has actually been achieved. As mentioned by Mr. Ktenidis, the Common Agricultural Policy is executed within the frame of a shared management system. What does shared management mean? It is a form of execution of the EU budget, which basically means that the member states undertake the following two main duties. First, to execute their duties according to specific tools such as OPAKP and specific agencies to the beneficiaries, and secondly, to adopt measures on a national level and implement and take measures which guarantee the protection of the financial interests of the EU. That is, in brief, the proper management of funds assigned by the EU. These measures, generally speaking, include proper, for example, keeping of the account books, of the supervision of the organizations carrying out these duties within the national law, collaboration with EU institutions which also want to control what is happening in each member state, and, of course, the imposition, where required, of effective, proportionate, and deterrent sanctions. That is, in brief, the framework of competence of the member states within the framework of shared management. And then, in each sector of policy, this system is further specified with specific rules. Now, let me talk about the three forms of carrying out fiscal control on behalf of the EU with regard to member states' management. The first form is known as annual fiscal clearance of the accounts, This form of clearance is more of an accounting nature and has to do with checking the completeness, accuracy, and honesty of the submitted accounts. So every February, at the end of each financial year, the member states need to submit an account stating how the management of the expenditure has been carried out of the funds allocated by the EU and then distributed to the beneficiaries. These accounts are checked by the Commission, which in May, in a few months, issues an executive decision saying that the accounts are balanced, which means that the various funds are allocated and there need to be no additions or subtractions, or whether there are any inaccuracies such as exceeding the deadline, which leads to a reduction in the funds or the payment of the relevant funds, because in some cases, for example, a member state may have spent less than it should have done rather than more. For the fiscal year 2023, which was the first year of implementation of the new CAP, 2 executive orders were issued, one for the Guarantee Fund and one for the Agricultural Development Fund, where the reduction and retrieval of funds from 9 member states was decided, payment to 2, and for 16 countries that we had balance accounts, including Greece. In the second case, that had to do with the Guarantee Fund, which manages the largest volume of subsidies, things were slightly different. There was a decision to reduce the funds from 18 member states, including Greece, a payment to 6, and only 2 accounts were found to be balanced. Specifically for Greece, the amount to be retrieved is roughly 20 million. From the annex of the decision, about 1.3 million had to do with reductions or suspensions of funds that had to do with the fiscal year 2023 because of deadlines not being met, and 20 million had to do with measures from previous years, previous management periods, specifically due to Greece not achieving the goal of retrieving specific financial amounts. With regard to 2024 and the financial year 2024, we are now expecting the issuance of the relevant implementing decision. Up to this morning, it had not yet been issued officially. The second form, which is the innovative element of the new system of the CAP, has to do with the annual performance clearance. As Mr. Aktenidis mentioned, there's a shift recently in the model from compliance to performance, and this, for the first time, is realized through a fiscal management model. So the specific innovative element of the annual performance clearance based on performance has to do with the following. The member states are obliged, whenever they make an expenditure related to an intervention, to have this assigned to specific output. What do I mean by the term output? We're basically talking about what has been achieved in practice as a result of these interventions. If you read Regulation 2115, this provides for specific and general goals, promoting a smart agricultural sector, environmental protection, supporting a viable income for farmers, measures for climate change, etc. So these goals are turned into goals which are included in the strategic plans of each member state, and relevant funds are allocated to them. So the member states every May, as a result, need to submit to the Commission their annual declaration of performance, where they state to what extent they were able to channel these specific funds to the objectives that they were trying to serve. And this leads to the output model. According to the regulation, or rather in the regulation, this is analyzed in specific annex where we see whether the interventions met the objectives. For example, in the intervention basic income support, here the support has to do with the number of hectares supported through this intervention. In the objective investments, they check the number of investment actions that were supported. For example, if a member state in its strategic plan has specified in numbers that the specific number of costs will have to do with this intervention, and in the end it spends less, it is decided that it did not meet the performance target and the financing is reduced. Within this framework, various declarations of performance have been submitted by the member state. For Greece, no need for reduction was identified, only in some journalistic articles, and I said there's a degree of reservations. There are going to be some deviations in 2024 where there were missing calls for beneficiaries, but we'll see whether that will lead to a reduction in EU funding or not. So the question here is whether this efficiency check is just an efficiency check. Where? The answer is no. In the next control, this could also be termed as a legality control, because if there has been a cost, an expenditure assigned to specific intervention, and in the end it is not spent for this intervention, then it is considered non-eligible and, at the end of the day, illegal. This issue of illegality is checked in line with the third form of fiscal control of the EU, which has to do with Article 55 of the regulation, which is the legality check, as we call it. In this case, when we're talking about the main change now in the regulatory framework for the CAP, is that in this case, for most types of expenditure, there is a suspension only if we have serious problems in the governance systems used by the various member states. And we're not only talking about governance bodies such as payments authorities, certifying authorities, etc., but also the extent to which the member state as a whole is able to meet the main requirements of the EU with regard to the effective protection of its financial interests, what I said before about checks, sanctions, and supervision, retrieval of payments, etc., and the implementation of the national strategic plans and the systems for submission of reports, such as the annual performance report of Article 134 that I mentioned previously. A serious omission. Well, what do we call a serious omission in this case? We don't talk about various errors or shortcomings, but a serious omission would be an omission that has to do with specific that have a specific weighting, which are repeated and which affect compliance with EU law. So we can come to the conclusion that the compliance check carried out by the Commission to the Member States, and this is also stated in the regulation, does not include errors that has to do with the eligibility of specific beneficiaries, unless this has more systemic characteristics, in which case adherence to legality and compliance to EU law also comes up. Compliance to the law is specified according to the Commission, and the Member State, after a procedure that is carried out before the decision is made to bar the Member State from financing, may decide that this shortcoming is not as serious as initially thought, and therefore no such measures are adopted. Two decisions have been issued so far within the framework of this regulation, one of which has to do with Greece also. In previous irregularities, it was found that there were shortcomings in all these governance systems, and some were more serious, in which case there was a barring of access to 57 million euros because of issues related to non-compliance. In other countries, such as France, This amount was 15 million, 20 million in the Netherlands, and much higher for Hungary, which had to do with the clearance of accounts, where there was a retrieval of 150 million, which should have been made and was not, and this was shown in the clearance. To conclude, we have a new procedural step which has to do with performance checks, which helps member states filter the way in which they manage the financial issues related to the CAP, and this leads to the goal of an efficient progress in check of the way in the funds are managed from their issuance and until they arrive in the hands of the beneficiaries. Thank you very much indeed. Can you hear me? Okay, now I shall hand over to my colleague, Mr. Kyriazopoulos, who's going to make a brief presentation. Please be brief, Mr. Kyriazopoulos, talking about governance bodies.
Good morning from me too. I wish to thank GAIA EPICHEIREIN for their invitation, and I also wish to thank the board members of KENOP, the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki Center for European Legal Culture. The first pillar of governance systems is made up by the so-called governance agencies. State members need to designate their own government agencies. I will be discussing France too. Each member state is called upon to designate 4 governance agencies, inter alia, as well as 1 or more payment agencies, 1 coordination agency if we have more than 1 payment agency, and a certifying agency. The agencies that are mentioned in the regulation about strategic plans are different ones. So these 4 types of agencies come under the governance systems. So in each member state, there has to be 1 competent authority, and this competent authority has powers of recall vis-à-vis the payment agency, the certifying agency, and the coordination agency. Reporting has to take place every 3 years when it comes to the supervising work on the part of this authority regarding the payment agencies. In France, 2 ministries have shared competence, so they are both the country's competent authority with regard to financial management. The second agency that each member state has to appoint is the payment agency, and given the recent developments in Greece, we know how important this is. We have already discussed share management with regard to the common agricultural policy. This agency is appointed by the minister. The minister can keep the prior payment agency under prior EU legislation. There too we had payment agencies as accredited agencies, but designating the payment agency is not something which is at the full discretion of the minister. Specific standards have to be met in order for an agency to be designated as the country's payment agency. The agency in question has to have the required internal auditing system, inter alia. If the ministry that is in charge finds out that the payment agency no longer complies with the above-mentioned standards, then the payment agency in question shall be placed under supervision within a specific time interval that cannot go beyond 12 months unless an extension is granted by the Commission. The regulation enables payment agencies to assign management and control duties, but not payment powers to other agencies. In Greece, under the prior set of legislative provisions, OPEKEPE was accredited as Greece's payment agency. OPEKEPE was established in 1988. Regarding supervision, there are no specific supervision provisions with the exception of the law according to which OPEKEPE was established. So, if the minister is called upon to recall the accreditation, will the minister be able to do this by means of a ministerial decision? We think that the answer must be in the affirmative according to Greece's national legislation and according to EU legislation as well. In any case, we think that the most correct thing would be for the accreditation to have been obtained by means of a ministerial decision. Here in Greece, we know that there have been irregularities and shortcomings when it comes to OPEKEPE's accreditation criteria, and we have Commission reports saying this, and we know that in September 2024, OPEKEPE was placed under supervision. OPEKEPE had been given 1 year in order to comply, that is until September 2025. So OPEKEPE has to proceed with the implementation of the action plan for OPEKEPE to exit their supervision status, and if this does not happen, unfortunately, Greece's Minister for Rural Development and Food will need to revoke the payment agency's accreditation and assign these duties to some other agency so that agricultural payments keep on being disbursed to the beneficiaries. According to a 2023 ministerial decision, 2 ad hoc services were given a part of OPEKEPE's authorities, and this ministerial decision is also a cause for concern because it is the minister, not OPEKEPE, delegating these powers. So one might say that this is actually a covered way for the minister to assign those duties to those agencies. And in this case, the minister should also have established a coordination agency. We don't have that in Greece. In France, where we have the geographical particularities there, we have 2 payment agencies. We have ASP as well as the agency that is in charge of the island of Corsica. According to a joint ministerial decision, it's the Corsica office that is in charge of Corsica agricultural payments. In Greece, as I have said, we don't have a coordination agency. In France, ASP has also been assigned as a coordination agency. Finally, we have the certifying agency. This is an agency doing audit work, and they are in charge of providing an opinion regarding the control of accounts, and they must also report regarding OPECEP's control systems. The certifying body is very important because they have to safeguard transparency and accountability. Greece's Fiscal Control Committee, as it is called, is Greece's national certification body. In France, the French certification body reports directly to the French government. That's all in a nutshell from me. I hope I was fast enough. So let's hope that any shortcomings will be addressed so that we don't have a problem regarding the disbursement of EU funds. I think we have 20 more minutes, don't we? Okay, let me pass the floor to Demosthenis.
Όχι, εντάξει, 11 και 4, οκ. Όχι, όχι, εντάξει.
Καλή σας μέρα κυρίες και κύριοι. Η δική μου παρέμβαση έχει ως αντικείμενο
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will be discussing the legislative nature of the agricultural plans. We all know that under the new implementing model, the strategic plans of the member states have acquired considerable significance. Those plans must be submitted to the European Commission that needs to approve them within 6 months. Prior to their Commission approval, the strategic plans do not entail any legal effects. I will be discussing 3 issues mainly. Number 1, whether these are member state acts or EU acts. Number 2, whether these are legally binding acts. And number 3, whether these acts can be subject to control regarding their compatibility with EU law by the national courts or by the EU court. Regarding whether strategic plans are national law or EU law, I think we all understand that these are member state acts because it is up to each member state to write their own plan according to their domestic legislation and taking into account the specific needs of their own agriculture sector. The subsequent approval by the European Commission is not enough on its own in order to change the legal nature of these acts that are, as I have already said, domestic law acts. The EU legislation also provides for the possibility for national authorities to participate in the issuance of an act by an EU institution. In this case, domestic preparatory acts are embedded in the final EU act, so they have lost their domestic legal nature part in the meantime. This issue was put before the European Union's General Court. The General Court studied in detail EU competence and national competencies, and its findings are very interesting. The new implementing model for the common agricultural policy says that it is up to the European Union to provide the parameters, and that it is incumbent upon member states to specialize those parameters, and there is more room for maneuver for the member states. Objectives, types of interventions, and common requirements for the common agricultural policies are the EU competence. The rest is left to the member states. This clear separation of powers is mirrored in the general budget of the European Union too, where we have shared management between the European Union and member states. Therefore, despite the fact that the approval of a national strategic plan is the exclusive competence of the European Commission, this decision is different from the strategic plan per se, which is always a member state national act. As to whether these strategic plans are legally binding, we have two possibilities. Each member state writes their own national plan. In EU law, there are no requirements about the legal form that strategic plans must have. So a member state may opt for the form of a legally binding domestic law act, and another member state may choose to have their strategic plans as a non-legally binding act. Up till now, no member state has opted for the legally binding avenue. Regarding the EU law, the strategic plan is an agreement between the member state and the European Union. The member state undertakes to complete a set of interventions regarding the attainment of specific agricultural objectives, and the European Union undertakes to provide funding. Submitting the strategic plan to the European Commission constitutes the member state's proposal. The evaluation of the strategic plan by the European Commission actually corresponds to the negotiation about the content of this agreement. The minister has somehow cornered us here, so please try and be as brief as possible. I will be finishing in 1 minute. So, approving the strategic plan entails that both parties accept that they have concluded this agreement. Prior to the approval of the strategic plan, the member state does not require funding, and the EU does not require the member state to implement their interventions. In closing, regardless of the form that the strategic plan is going to take, the strategic plan is a binding one. As to whether this is also binding for the beneficiaries, there is little practical significance here, because the beneficiaries care about the national implementing measures. It is these national implementing measures that have to be legally binding. Thank you. Thank you, Demosthenes. Good morning from me too. I just want to comment on something that Mr. Viopoulos has discussed. Mr. Ptenidis, of course, already explained that the model has changed and we are now in a performance control model. However, there are still vague points here. Mr. Viopoulos said that when it comes to the kind of items of expenditure that are excluded from funding, we have vague notions in this new set of regulations, and those vague notions will create problems, and this is why we will need to keep on taking those cases before the EU courts. It seems that the regulation has opted for a more open-ended word, such as impact. The regulation also discusses serious shortcomings. Now, as to what serious means exactly, we don't know. Seriousness is a vague notion. The EU court case law is of considerable volume when it comes to providing sufficient justification, and we have also had EU court rulings annulling Commission decisions. So legality is always on the fore, but there will be quite a lot of issues that the member states will need to address. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are very much pressed for time. I know. Big agricultural product exporters are Russia, EU, Australia, Canada, and the US. Strong exporters are those who are not just industrial countries, but also strong agricultural players. And the issue of production cost comes into place. No agricultural sector can survive on a subsidies-free basis in any developed country. Everything we do is about adapting and complying with our obligations under the International Trade Organization. Today, the World Trade Organization. Nowadays, the southern countries are reacting. In 2008, we tried to bring the Doha round to a close. George Bush was told that he should absolutely do this, and then in 2015 we had the agreement about banning export subsidies. This is the requirement to which we need to adopt. And this new model that my colleagues have been discussing is pretty much something that exhausts our possibilities as to what will happen if this system collapses. I think this is going to be an apocalyptic scenario, and there's a chance that we will need to experience it. I mean, if the whole WTO system falls apart. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for attending. Mr. Kapnias has a question to ask. Just a clarification, if I may. Payment agency accreditation is granted by the minister. So the minister, you said, is in charge of revoking this, right? Not the European Union, because this is what we've been reading in the press. Is that correct? According to the EU regulation regarding accreditation and the revoking of accreditation, it's the minister that is in charge, because the minister is the National Accreditation Authority, according to Regulation 4914. This is how our minister is termed. Of course, the European Commission is free to write its own findings, and it is up to the minister to revoke accreditation. It is also up to the minister to write the action plan, because supervision is ministerial supervision. As a follow-up point to what Mr. Kyriazopoulos said, when the minister exercises this competence, they need to comply with EU requirements. Ministers are the competent authority, and according to EU legislation, if accreditation criteria are not complied with, the accreditation status has to be revoked. Otherwise, EU criteria. Otherwise, this member state will be in breach of EU accreditation criteria. So thank you for attending this panel. We wish you all the best for the rest of the day.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλημέρα σας και από μένα ξανά. Θα έχουμε τη χαρά να συνομιλήσουμε.
In a few minutes from now, we will have the pleasure of speaking to Minister Papasteriou. We will have polling today too. In a few seconds from now, the QR code will appear on the screen, and you're welcome to participate in the polling, whether on site or online. I will be discussing the polling results with our minister too. So, Minister, why do you think that we have the digital divide in the agricultural sector? Is it because of lack of coverage? Is it because natural disasters are not forecast in a timely fashion? Or is it because the agricultural advisors do not provide enough counseling? Good morning, Minister. Thank you for being with us. You said that in the last quarter of the year, of this year, Greece is going to have its own microsatellites. So do you think that Greece will comply with this timeline? Well, good morning, and I'm sorry not to be able to join you on site. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to scan the Q code. either. Indeed, this is a national project here in our ministry, our digital governance minister. Indeed, as of this year, Greece is going to have its own national infrastructure on space, and this will be used for civil protection purposes and for defense and communication purposes too. Other countries have not completed their respective procedures yet, so we will start off with Space 6 missions that are going to start in the summer of 2025. We will have 13 microsatellites, and this is how we will obtain information regarding weather conditions, regarding the recording of damages and losses to crops, because our microsatellites will be above the crops 3 or 4 times each day. So this kind of information is not going to be restricted to us only. We will have a governance hub from where all this corpus of data will be made available to research centers, universities, etc. Today, Copernicus satellites can provide us with 1 pixel per 1 meter, but once those microsatellites are put into place, the resolution will be so high it will be on the level of centimeters. So you will have 3,000 stations, and the satellites will be high resolution satellites. What is very interesting is that thanks to our national supercomputer, Daedalus, we will now be able to process that data and collect satellite data from terrestrial stations too. All that data require very strong computing systems. Thanks to Daedalus, we will have this computation power which we will give to our researchers. Agriculture is changing, and Greece is changing too, very, very quickly. This is the era of technology and AI. Mr. Mamais yesterday had a very interesting presentation about AI in the field and how this can be of assistance for Greek farmers. What we saw yesterday regarding the electronic olive fly trap was really mind-boggling, and excuse my language here. What do you say? Well, agronomists are the best placed ones to answer this. We just need to bring this information, we just need to bring that data on the screens of the people that can do this. Let me say that we started off with one of our 7 AI factories already, the one that is located in Lavrio. Civil protection relates to agricultural production too, and we are now tabling an additional proposal for one more AI factory in the region of Macedonia. So this is going to be good for our energy output, and we will have even more data regarding our farmers. So the Ministry for Rural Development and the farming community must specify their needs. I think I'm going to give you a hard time with this question of mine, because I will tell you that the main complaint on the part of the farmers is that they have no signal on their parcel, on their plot of land. So then, where exactly are we now when it comes to the issue of broadband coverage? And do you think that you will be able to provide solutions?
What I always like to say is when the X is X and the Y can't give us an answer, then we have the third scenario. So when we have a country with more than 100 inhabited islands, the country with so many mountains, which means it's impossible to provide fiber optics to each island and mountain. We need to move faster, however, with fixed landlines. We have the greatest rate of development of networks in Europe at the moment, but of course the reason is because we are lagging behind. With regard to mobile communication, however, we're in a very good position. We have quite an extensive network and a good speed connection. One might say, however, that what are you talking about, Minister? I have no signal at home or in my field. Well, as Minister and previously as Mayor, when we wanted to install an antenna, nobody wants an antenna near their home. Everybody wants a quick speed and lots of BBS without an antenna in their area. Well, that is impossible. So rather than just talking about this case or that case, in every part of Greece, we know the solutions that can be implemented, and European solutions also that can lower the cost significantly in order to get 200 or 300 megabps. Also, there's the following solutions where we have an elementary coverage by ESG's networks. Then we can have fixed access, and which means that fiber optics is not an easy solution for agricultural areas, but a wireless solution with one of the two technologies that I've just mentioned. Yes, I think that this is very important because it also provides some guidelines to farmers in order to find the solutions to their requirements. You talked about your previous capacity as mayor, and I should like to ask a question from someone you knew in your past capacity. And the question is, as mayor, would you have liked to have more competencies with regard to agricultural production? Well, in the previous 9 years of my life as a mayor, yes, we were greatly concerned about not only building pavements and squares, but also providing prospects to the people living in our area, particularly for young people. And an example that I will give is from Trikola, that I come from. Ancient Triki was the homeland of Asclepius, who, of course, was one of the founders of medicine. So what we tried to do was to see whether we had the suitable soil for sideritis, a special type of tea, and for oregano, and for aromatic herbs that Asclepius was connected to. Yes, municipalities can have a clear view both with regard to irrigation works, which I consider that the local water services should be responsible for. Often the local authorities and government clash on issues regarding the drinking water, and there's no settlement with regard to irrigation water, which is more than 80% of the water requirements. So we need to assign such competencies to the local water authorities. They don't want to undertake irrigation right now because the system has a lot of problems. But this needs to be done because the ministry has the knowledge, and what we need as a country and local authorities need to get involved if we want them to continue to exist, and we want people to continue working in local authorities rather than coming to Thessaloniki or Athens. Yes, your views coincide with those of Mr. Zoros, the representative of ERME, saying that about 80% of water is used for irrigation, and also half of this is wasted, actually. Yes, because if we use water cannons, as we did in Thessaly, for farming, from what I understand, although I haven't worked in agriculture, I think this is a comfortable solution for some. But what I'm looking at in my new capacity as minister is a solution that is now being applied in some areas for irrigation and for a more organized system, and this has to do with a prepaid system and the cards. So in some areas where farmers could not agree the water was being wasted or they didn't have the money to pay for the water, well, in some areas where we have more consistent farming, they had prepaid money, prepaid cards, and the system works very well. A couple more words about you. You said that you come from Trikala. I'm sure that you come into contact with the agricultural world in your area and all over Greece. So, are Greek farmers open to new technologies? Do they wish to be trained? And on the other hand, also, does the Greek state give them the opportunity to have such training seminars? And very soon we'll also look at the answers we had in the relevant poll. But before that, please let me know your opinion. Well, I think that we cannot look at this issue horizontally. Are they open to training or not? Well, in my area, I see young farmers who want to use new technologies, but of course there are some farmers, particularly of an older age, who don't see any such prospect due to their age and want to do what they were always doing. So all of us who are involved in this, because my ministry is also involved in digital governance in providing technological solutions, we need to offer these prospects because I insist the rural areas are dying. I see it in my own area. And the people in the Valley of Thessaly and in other areas where we have different types of crops, we need to retain people there to give them new prospects and new tools. The other day, I was talking to some agronomists from Trikali who were asking me right out about meteorological data and how we can help our clients. Well, this is a solution that we started discussing at the beginning. That is how we collect data from various sources and from land and satellite, and how this facilitates the work of farmers and agronomists so that they can protect or improve their crops. We need to be there to help people, but of course also the mindset of young farmers needs to change as well. Last question before we look at the results of the question that we asked the audience. Yesterday at the Congress, we heard voiced a specific complaint. Although many steps have been taken in the last 5 years with regard to digitization, somebody mentioned that there is an immense administrative burden placed on farmers. They lose a lot of hours going from desk to desk trying to find the competent service. So, with regard to digitization of procedures, where are we at right now, and what are you planning to do in order to digitize the agricultural sector to the best extent possible? Mr. Likorentos, you are right, and those who complain, because only in 2019 did Greece start looking at the digitization of the state seriously due to the pandemic. Also, very quickly, various stages of our life were digitized so that Greece was not open, could remain open during the pandemic. In recent years, we have a much more detailed depiction of procedures so that the desk bureaucracy is removed. We need to simplify also digital bureaucracy, and we have done so. I can give you some examples. We have interoperable databases. The data is available. The ministry needs to know what data are available, where they're at. and the data belong to the ministry and to no one else, because sometimes it's a paradox that there's useful data that does not belong to public services, or private services have more data than we do, which is also a problem. So, since we have data that are interoperable, we need to stop giving people and farmers a hard time asking for data that the Greek government can find on its own. Last summer, we did this and started with insurance companies and insurance brokers a few days ago. So now, in order to insure a vehicle, we don't need to send any papers or vehicles, any documents. The data is sourced automatically. And also, with a recent circular, we basically abolished the birth certificate and family certificate. So that is paving the way to procedures so that data that we can retrieve in the public sector and to proceed with these procedures and to get this data with the permission of the citizen automatically. We are determined to do so. We can achieve the desired goals. So let's look at the results. What do you consider the main reason for the existence of a digital gap in the agricultural sector? 72.5% answered the lack of digital training for producers. So, Minister, we have discussed this. Second is the lack of advice and guidance to farmers. And if we add the two percentages together, we come to about 88%. The other answers are much lower. So I think in relation to what you said also, the fact that the broadband zone coverage, maybe farmers have already found an answer to that, and that's why there's only 5.9% as the reason for the digital divide. 72.5% think that the main reason, however, for the digital gap in the agricultural sector, the lack of digital training for producers. What's your comment on that? Well, we have already begun with various institutional bodies and social partners to put in place a program, 62 million for new skills. A lot of social partners have applied for that. I don't actually remember there being any social partner which is directly related to the agricultural sector, but even if that's the case, because the agricultural world is more centralized and far from decision-making centers, which means potentially that they are less quote-unquote open to such programs. Nevertheless, it is our shared responsibility, together with the Agricultural Development Ministry, to see the current trends in the agricultural sector and to approach the farmers ourselves. We are open to any such collaboration together with the Ministry of Agricultural Development. In these 2 days of our Congress, I think it's precisely this answer, or rather the answer to this question, was the one that had the highest percentage so far. So I think that also tells you what your next steps should involve. Thank you very much, Mr. Papasteriou, for your presence. Thank you, Mr. Likourentos. Have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to have a short break, and then we will continue with the next session, talking with interprofessional groups, and the Minister, Mr. Christos Kellos, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Development and Food, will also be participating in the relevant panel. Thank you very much.
Να επαναλάβω παρακαλώ να προσέλθουμε στην αίθουσα για να ξεκινήσει η τέταρτη και τελευταία θεματική.
So, please join us in order to begin the fourth and final thematic session of the Congress.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλή σας ημέρα. Σας καλωσορίζω και εγώ από την πλευρά.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would also like to welcome you to the final session of the 11th GAIA Congress organized in Thessaloniki by GAIA EPICHEIREIN. The topic of this session is the agricultural economy of Central Macedonia, cooperative examples and collaborations. I believe that we shall have a very fruitful and useful conversation with our distinguished guests, since this topic involves a very vibrant cell of the Greek agriculture and animal breeding. However, before we begin the discussion, since the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Development and Food, Mr. Christos Kellos, has prior commitments to attend to, I would like to call him first to the podium in order for him to share with us his thoughts on the evolution of Greek agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a particular pleasure and honor for me to be here at the Panhellenic 11th GAIA Congress, and thank you very much for your invitation. Today, more than ever before, we are at a very vital point in time whereby agriculture and animal breeding require new tools and new forms of organization and collaboration in order to be able to stand strong vis-à-vis the challenges of our times. The agricultural production of Central Macedonia is one of the strongest pillars for the growth of rural areas and of the country as a whole. Agricultural cooperatives, producer groups, and collaborations with businesses and research centers strengthen the sustainability and competitiveness of the agricultural sector. According to the official registry details, 196 cooperatives are in operation and 31 producer groups have been recognized. Agricultural economy in Central Macedonia. Well, most of you already know that this region is characterized by fertile soil and a dense road network, which enables the cultivation of most of the country's fruits, such as peaches, apricots, cherries, plums, kiwi fruit, as well as cereals and cotton. There is also sunflower, aromatic herbs, and a very strong export profile of the region to markets in Europe, the US, and Asia. Specifically in Pella and Imathia, these regions are well known for the production of table peaches, compost, and cherries, and also for the production of kiwi, which are exported around the world. In Ceres and Kilkis, we have cereals, aromatic herbs such as oregano, mountain tea, and lavender, which are also strong in the export market. Agricultural cooperatives play a key role in the agriculture sector of Central Macedonia, and they operate as collective action agencies, giving the possibility to farmers to join forces and achieve better prices for their products, access to funding and infrastructure, and export prospects. Many cooperatives invest in preservation in cool areas, in processing, and thus provide added value to the local production. Modern collaborations involve contractual farming, participation in innovative programs, and the exploitation of digital technologies. The use of technology, sensors, satellite images, and weather data is practiced on a pilot basis in specific regions, and also through innovation collaborations. The sustainable use of natural resources is promoted, soil protection, and reduced production costs. Collaboration also with the research bodies provides scientific support, studies, and innovative practices to our farmers. The reduction by 50% of taxation to cooperatives and to those who practice contract farming, plus the reduction of the tax coefficient in agricultural groups to 10%, shows that the government has a clear goal to strengthen such cooperative schemes, because that is where the future of the agricultural sector lies, that is, in the power of joint action. In addition, through the strategic plan of the CAP 2023-2027, major projects and investments are implemented amounting to 1.8 billion euros that include young farmer projects, the creation of producer groups, collaborations through operational groups in order to promote innovation, investments in agricultural product processing that increases their added value, and plans for improving greenhouses, which are implemented with 50% subsidy through the Agricultural Development Program, 35% through a systemic bank, and 15% by the participants themselves. Export activities and goals for Central Macedonia involve the following. Central Macedonia plays a leading role in Greek exports of agricultural products. In the top positions, we find fresh fruit, processed food and wines, which are exported to more than 50 countries. The main markets include Germany, Italy, Poland, as well as the US, countries of Latin America, Japan, and emerging markets also, such as Egypt, Israel, and countries in the Middle East. The quality, certification, and branding of cooperative products, along with the support they enjoy from the chambers of commerce of each region, offer a competitive advantage to exporters, in addition to the existence of logistics, infrastructure, and cooling chambers, which ensure the freshness and viability of the products when being transported. Also in Central Macedonia, 87% of the total production of Greek rice is produced in Central Macedonia. Fruit, 65%, such as peaches, apricots, cherries, and plums. Tobacco at a level of 54%. All this information underlines the importance of Central Macedonia for the agriculture sector of Greece, both with regard to quantity and variety of products. The cooperative examples and collaborations in this region are not only a choice, but rather a necessity. And they go to prove that when producers join forces, they can create economies of scale, increase the negotiating power, and also provide added value to their products. Let me give you a couple of examples of specific agricultural cooperatives. For example, Venice Groves Agricultural Cooperative of Veria is one of the most characteristic successful examples of a cooperative in Central Macedonia and in Greece. Its headquarters are in Veria. It is mainly active in fruit and vegetables, mainly on fruit salad, peach, and it's compote, stewed fruit, and its products are exported to Europe, Asia, and the US. This is a model cooperative which plays a significant role in ensuring a stable income for producers, it creates jobs, and also promotes Greek fruit to international markets. Another characteristic example of a cooperative is the Zeps cooperative with kiwi fruit in Pieria region, headquarters in Katerini in Karitsa in Pieria, with more than 300 producers, and specializes in the production and sanitization of kiwi fruit, table grapes, and apricots. Its products are exported to the US, Canada, and to European countries. A third example that I'd like to mention is the Association of Agricultural Cooperatives of Thessaloniki, which plays a very important role in supporting local farmers by offering services and products that strengthen agricultural production and local economy. It is active in the trade of cereals, cotton, pulses, and animal feeds. In recent years, it has played a major role in promoting agricultural products in international markets through European programs by strengthening its extroversion and the competitiveness also of local products. The Association of Thessaloniki is a characteristic example of a successful cooperative that combines innovation, the adoption of new technologies, and thus contributes substantially to the development of the local agricultural sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the agricultural economy of Central Macedonia has all the necessary tools in order to play a leading role in agricultural development. With the proper support and collaborations, we can create a new model of agricultural economy that is sustainable, extroverted, and collaborative. This model will be able to retain young people in the countryside and rural areas, bringing added revenue to rural communities and provide for the food safety of Greece. And that is precisely what Central Macedonia can do, and this is a promise that we definitely can uphold. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be looking at successful examples, some of which have already been mentioned by Mr. Kellos. We shall listen to experiences and explore the extent to which these collective efforts can be further strengthened and intensified. So right now, I would like to invite the distinguished guests of this session. Firstly, the Deputy Regional Governor for Agricultural Economy, Mr. Georgios Kefalas. Welcome. We shall be talking about initiatives and actions undertaken by the region and supporting the local economy. And we have also three important people from our field of production and processing, and they are Mr. Christos Tsichitas, who is the president of presidents, as he was called yesterday. He is the president and CEO of EAS. He is also the president of the National Interprofessional Organization for Pulses and president of the Working Group for Cotton of COPA-COGECA. Next, Mr. Efthymios Foteinos, who is the president of the National Interprofessional Organization for Cotton. And Mr. Ioannis Arnaoutelis, who is the chair of the National Interprofessional Organization for Greek Rice. So, as I said, three key figures from the field of production and processing who, through their hard efforts and their interprofessional groups, tried to strengthen the extroversion and the production of three very dynamic Greek products. I would also like to inform those of you who are attending the proceedings of the Congress for the first time that we have a live voting system in place. Right now, we can scan this barcode, this QR code, with your mobile phone so that you can answer a key question. So this QR code will be up here for about 45 seconds. Please scan it with your mobile phones, and we ask for your participation because the answers to the question posed will help us delve deeper into the topics of this debate. So the question is whether the role of interprofessional organizations is a positive one. And it's interesting to see what your opinion is regarding this question. Starting with you, Deputy Regional Governor, we're talking in this session about cooperatives and collaborative schemes. Do we have any Greek or international examples of cooperatives in the animal breeding sector that could be used as a model for the region of Central Macedonia? Well, first of all, thank you very much, Mrs. Prisochou, for the invitation to participate in this panel. It is clear that we have few, I agree, but exceptionally good examples in the field of animal production. Specifically speaking for Greece, a very good example, and I mention this first because I have been part of its establishment, is Greek Ellinikos Moschos, Greek calf, which uses the meat produced by animal breeders who breed free grazing cows. And this is a strategic advantage for these particular producers because they sell a product of a high nutritional value that has been born, raised, and slaughtered in Greece. Because, as you know, 88% of the beef consumed in Greece comes from other countries of the European Union. Talking about our region specifically, I must mention the Agróκτημα Langadas. This is a producer group that I am the president of and manager, producing a large number of cow's milk per year, 40,000 tons. Also, it is participating in the auditing program of Holstein Hellas. And this has provided us with a better organized cooperative sale of the milk to the industry, also saving with regard to inputs, which has led to a profit of 5% in our annual turnover, which in 2024 was 5.5 million euros. What this means is that we have an additional income of about 300,000 euros per year, and the 8 members of the group have decided that this will be used for developing joint investments. And we are the first producer organization in Greece, which has built its facilities, which are going to be opened on the 1st of June, where we have a joint breeding of the calves produced from the members' holdings to date, which were male. This was considered a sub-product, but now the male element of the produced animals is deemed to be very good and to be used for the production of meat. Also, we are participating as members in Evolution, a cooperative scheme in France and in Terrain. One is active in the field of genetics, the other organizes its members in agriculture and animal breeding. It recently merged with a relevant German organization, creating Synetics. 12 billion euros is the turnover, 12,000 members around the world. So we are considered supranational members of this organization, which means that we enjoy the same privileges in pricing, in provisions. We are completing this year 40 years of collaboration. I visited them when I was 17 with my father. I thought I was going there on a trip, but actually he was training me, and that was great. What are we doing with this organization? We are preparing a project called Beef on Dairy. Beef on Dairy, 300 mixed calves will be produced from 5 of the best races around the world. And the organoleptic data will be, of course, characterize the end product. We have 100 people working on this, working on genetics from 40 countries. The final presentation of this project is being made today. These animals are being born at the facilities of our members, and they will be bred all together at the facility created by Agroctima Langada. Apart from the capital that we used for this project, we used funding from the Agricultural Development Ministry, one for producer investment, and one investment plan from the Recovery Fund. With regard to animal production, at least, I believe that this is potentially one of the best examples that could also be mirrored by others. Now, with regard to plant production, I'd like to add something more, but let's do it at the end when we talked about producer groups. Okay, thank you very much. Your project is extremely interesting, Deputy Regional Governor, and I'm sure you can tell us more about it later on. I'd like to ask you this, however. In your opinion, which are the key factors that contribute to the success of examples such as the ones you mentioned? Is it sound collaboration, support, means and resources and tools? I think the knowledge is there. I think we have excellent people involved. What we're not used to in Greece is collaboration. If I were to categorize the problems affecting the agricultural sector in Greece today, I would say the main thing is training and a change of mentality amongst the producers, even more than funding or production or the institutional framework. Second in importance, I would say, is that we do not understand how important it is to collaborate. If we manage to create and develop such collaborations, then I think we'll be able to do anything we want. That's very important indeed. So let's stop here and let me move on to Mr. Fotinos, the president of the Interprofessional Group for Cotton. Mr. Fotinos, are there examples of organizations that you know of who have achieved major changes, not only in your field, and what can we learn from their success? I'm not only referring to Greek organizations, but international ones as well. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank GAIA EPICHEIREIN for inviting me to participate in this session and attend the 11th Congress. I'd like to say that GAIA EPICHEIREIN has played a crucial role in the modernization of the primary sector through innovative practices that have benefited agricultural economy. And we see the evidence of this year upon year. Thank you very much for that. Now, with regard to the example you asked for, where our organization is a living example, cooperativism is a one-way street. In an interprofessional group, you may have differing interests because we have farmers, we have people involved in ginning, industrialists, but they all have one objective: to improve what they do, to upgrade their products that are represented worldwide. Right now, the interprofessional group for cotton has 45,000 members, including all the ginning companies. We meet unanimously in order to achieve the best we can because, as I said, there is only one way forward. We can make no further mistakes. I believe that cooperativism and producer groups, agricultural cooperatives, industries, etc., everyone together, I believe, must walk along this road together so that we can achieve ultimate objective. Other forms of collaboration between producers and industries or companies that have proven to be more effective, for example, such as contract farming. Of course, I think that everybody is valuable in this game, and a person who joins an interprofessional organization, a cooperative, a producer group, must take advantage of all the financial tools available, whether we're talking about the banking system or programs offered by the development program, or our various funds, in order for us to achieve the best results. So collaboration between producers is not simply a strategic choice, but a way forward for sustainability, innovation and competitiveness, right? Yes, of course, because what I always insist on is that there's only one way forward. Nobody should be left out, but the whole sector, if joined together, if it works together, can do a lot. One living example that I'd like to mention, in the EU, for example, they're trying to tell us that synthetic cotton is healthier than biological cotton, for example, as if they're saying that plastic straws are healthier than paper straws. And this is something that we mentioned in Petros-Chora. Well, the Interprofessional Cotton Organization didn't stop when they heard that, and we informed all members of Parliament in Greece, Mr. Kellos, from the government and opposition parties, so that, and the minister himself, so that they oppose this claim that they're trying to put forward right now, that synthetic cotton is healthier. When talking about European cotton, we're talking about Greek cotton, basically, because 80% comes from Greece and 20% comes from Spain and elsewhere. So we cannot make any more mistakes. Things are crucial. I think that everyone has understood that. And both the government and the opposition parties, I believe, together will support this product and the fate of cotton production in Europe. Do we have any update on this? No, we're waiting to see what happens. Okay. Mr. Arnautelis, are there any examples of Greek or cooperatives and collaborations that helped the development of Greek rice production? Well, I'm a second-generation producer. I've seen many friends here. You also represent the field of processing as well. Yes, I'll tell you about that too. So I am the president of the Interprofessional Organization for Greek Rice. And your question had to do with cooperatives and such groups. And also, in relation to what you asked my friend Thimios, well, I mentioned this before I came into this hall, and it is that working groups have come to Greece, those that operate in California and are mainly based in San Francisco. Let me tell you about my own experience. I'm the second president of the Interprofessional Rice Organization. Since it was established, it is an unprecedented fact that we have managed to sit at the same table, both producers and processing. In the past, when we went to villages, particularly here in Halastra, outside Thessaloniki, and we asked the producers who went very much in favor of the cooperative system, they always said, oh, here comes the trader, the merchant. They didn't like industrialists, and here I mentioned all the Greek old films where we had this separation between farmers and industrialists. Well, at least we never called a factory owner, but only traders. Well, now there's a shift in this behavior on our behalf also, and on the part of the industry with regard to what we are trying to achieve. So, talking of cooperatives, in the interprofessional organization, we represent 80 to 85% of all those involved in rice. They are members of the interprofessional organization, the second largest after cotton. And there is mutual understanding and respect. We talk about the positives and the negative aspects of the sector, and we find solutions and move forward. This year, we submitted a project, what the Thessaloniki Union used to do. Now the Organization for Greek Rice is moving forward such projects in third countries, and we are active in various fields. We have a direct contact with the ministry. We don't have a single group visiting the ministry, but the whole of the interprofessional organization representing the whole sector. And we were recently at the ministry doing so. With regard to cooperatives, I can say the following. They're not only our members, but they're also suppliers to our factories. So together we discuss what seeds will be planted. We want to reduce costs. There's a huge problem which was actually recently identified, and it is a fact that large companies that sell supplies, drugs and seeds offer different prices in Greece compared to Italy or a neighboring country, Bulgaria, which Bulgaria is also producing rice now. So we're trying to tackle these problems. The innovative element of cooperatives is being able to get the product, dry it, and store it. And then there's a kind of competition with regard to the price. Those who offer the best price get the product and process it in their industries, in their factories. So we have a very good relationship. I believe that that there are no longer key problems in the well-run cooperatives, which are profitable, and there's no problem anymore. And no longer do they see us in the villages as the traders, as they did in the past. That's a thing of the past.
So then, how is it possible for your interprofessional organization to strengthen partnerships and clusters? As I said earlier on, in 2024, we gave it a go with a big multinational. in order to import certain seeds that would be of benefit for Greek rice growers and Greek rice factories. As Mr. Kellas was saying, the big growers are here in Thessaloniki, so we are in search of our own identity, of our own shelf. We want to find markets of our own. We don't want to be an ancillary factor. 1/3 of our produce is consumed in Greece. The rest is exported. So it's high time we identified our own shelf. We should no longer be second best when it just so happens that the neighboring country that's ranking first has no longer a product to supply them with. Slowly but steadily, we have already conquered a given market, and having our own branded product, reading Greek rice on the package, is important. So for our secondary sector to make it onto that shelf, we have to have the produce. And this all starts with seeding. So our interbranch has decided that we should be creating our own seeds and that we need to revive the Rice Institute here in Kalohori. So if we can, we are aiming for our own rice varieties. This is in accordance with our board decision. We went to the ministry on Monday. We discussed with Secretary General Stratakos. The minister knows about this. The minister agrees. Mr. Kellas was there too. So we're moving on. Thank you. I think, Mr. Tsichitas, you have a comment to make for Mr. Arnautelis? No, ask away. Okay. Your own Pulses interbranch is a relative newcomer. So let me start with the following question. What is it that makes a cooperative or a cluster successful? Well, thank you for inviting me once more in your conferences. I think that the conclusions from all the sessions will be useful. Everyone gets to express their opinion, and this is how we will obtain useful conclusions. The same goes for the clusters, because the clusters are there to provide experience and benefit. Cooperation and partnership are very important. I have a long farming cooperative experience, and I am now a board member as well regarding the cooperatives. I was very glad to listen to what the rice and cotton interbranches told us. So we are discussing clusters, partnerships, and cooperatives, but we must discuss about what went wrong. Politicians used cooperatives as a politicizing tool, and farmers wanted to reap pecuniary benefits out of the cooperatives, but this is a thing of the past. Our clusters are based on economies of scale, on the markets out there. So we need to strive for better products and lower production costs. Farmers have to work through clusters. I have faith in clusters. I have faith in our interbranch organizations because this is the best that we can do, provided that we try. I'm the president of a cooperative, and I wish to warmly thank the minister for referring to the Union of Thessaloniki cooperatives. We are 17 years old. We have 9 cooperatives as members. They are profit-making. They are not loss-making. We are active in the farming supplies trade too. We have been able to import certain pesticides, such as the one that is for rice crops, and we managed to offer this to the cooperatives at a far lower price compared to the rest of the market. I know this has angered certain market players, but this is what a cooperative should do. The advantage that we offer is the following. Whenever the farmer is the only one making a loss, for example, if a trader this year chooses to sell their pesticide 35% higher, that's shameless profiteering. So we should stop having those 2, 3 big companies monopolizing the whole sector. We discussed the issue of illegal pesticides in conferences of the previous years, and I said, well, you know what? You should just lower the prices of your own legal pesticides, because farmers find themselves obliged to resort to the illegal ones. We need open markets in order to bring down production costs. This is what a cluster can achieve. In our capacity as a Thessaloniki farming cooperative, this is what we do, and we assemble our produce to of the order of 15,000 tons. This rice is dried and stored. We try to maintain its excellent quality. We send it over to the rice mills and to any interested buyers, and we are also implementing 2 programs. One has to do with third countries such as UK, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Arnautelis can confirm this for you. And Greek rice is sold in Jordan as Greek rice. The local traders' brand is on the package, but still Greek rice is no longer sold in bulk. Together with our Spanish partners from Valencia, we have managed to bring out Greek and Spanish rice in our own respective countries as well as in the rest of the European Union. So we need to work together and we need to keep on working hard in order to be able to reap the results. So each and every cluster participant should know that they need to work before they reap the benefit. So we are in there for the profit as well as for the loss. If we are loss-making, then this is something that we need to shoulder, all of us. This is how the market is, and this is how we can move on. Well, it's great to have someone call a spade a spade. Well, I'm here to represent our farmers, and I'm a big farmer myself, and I did not discuss pulses at all. So let me tell you that my family is the biggest average size bean producer in Greece. This is how we make our living, so we need to stand up for it. We need to bring out our product, and we should no longer be silent about the problems that we face. Yes, of course. I guess we do have organized pulse farmers in cooperatives and in the respective interprofessional organization. However, the challenges are there. We have products that we have produce that is a fake Greek produce because it was grown elsewhere. So, do you have any other cooperative model in mind that you think of as a successful one? Our own Pulses interbranch organization is a relatively recent one. We are about to become acknowledged by the ministry. Greece has a deficit when it comes to pulses. Greece only grows about 30% of the pulses that it consumes. So there is indeed a lot of room for more leguminous plants to be grown. It is the cheapest kind of plant protein that you can have. Just 1 kilogram of beans will cost you only 3.5 euros, whereas 1 kilogram of meat, indeed, this is the poor man's meat. One kilogram of beans means that a family can have their meals twice. So we need to work together with the traders and the processors. And we also have big pulses cooperatives and big producer groups, such as the Thessaloniki Union of Cooperatives, the Kastoria Cooperative, the Cooperative of Kastoria, Florina, Velvendos. We have the Pelekanos Cooperative too, then the Cooperative of Pharsala in Thessaly. So wherever there are cooperatives, there is also an interbranch membership. We can do better by using clusters and cooperatives. We cannot do the selling on our own. We comply with our contracts, and each one of us tries their own best. This is the way to the future, and this is what interbranch organizations are here for. Farmers and processors must try to bring out the value of Greek products. They are one of the safest food products to use in the world, Greek products and European products. Is it possible to have a purely pulses cooperative here in Central Macedonia? Is it an issue of quantities? Well, you can have producer groups. We are here to provide advice. Of course, there is freedom of association. If there are people who are going to opt for a pulses cooperative, for the greater Koufalia area, I must tell you that it is through the Agricultural Association of Koufalia that our produce makes it to the market. For pulses, this is just the beginning. I think the outcome is going to be very beneficial for consumers and for farmers alike. Just imagine that the pulses that you eat come from non-EU countries such as China, India, Egypt, Turkey. You can understand about their quality traits or their food safety given the pesticide residues. Do we have the polling result yet? I would like to ask you for one comment each. This is about the role of the interbranch organizations and whether it's positive or not. 45.8% agree, 40.7% totally agree. Mr. Fotinos, over to you. I will agree with the president of presidents, as we call him, Mr. Tsichitas. Indeed, production cost is very significant. No matter how hard one tries, our biggest adversary and our biggest enemy is production cost. For cotton, right now, our membership is 44,000 people. Everyone is a member of the Cotton Interbranch, and right now we see that there's an influx of money that's about 250 million if we take into account fuel, etc. Our product reaches up to 1 billion. It's a real industry, but despite that, in the last 2 or 3 years, we have climate crisis that is here to stay, and stock market prices keep falling, so we need to do something about it. From 2010 to 2020, the average price for cotton was 44 to 45 cents. There was an upward trend, though. It was possible for people to sow more cotton. We reached a point 3 years ago when cotton got €1. Our production costs increased by 70%. Production costs are still very high. So someone who has a production of 500 kilograms of cotton per strema, that is 0.1 hectare at 44 cents only, that's a huge issue. So unless it is possible to restrain those big companies that are doing just as they please, then it's very important. We said this to Prime Minister Mitsotakis twice. We visited him, and he did receive us, I must say. There is only so much that our interbranch organization and the ginning factories can do. When it comes to production cost, this is where the state factor must come in. Let's say that we have an increased stock market price in year one. So there's a certain amount of surplus value. We try to obtain this together with the expertise that GAIA EPICHEIREIN has been providing us with for 11 years now. And this surplus value is always goes to the mega companies. And we always lag behind. That's our tombstone, actually. The primary sector, be it cotton, rice, or pulses, cannot go on like that. Greece has farming and tourism, so this is what we should be investing in, and we have to have state protection. It's clear. Plain and simple. You discussed management, too. So how can interbranch organizations be strengthened? Mr. Arnautelis, I know you visited the Ministry for Rural Development recently, and you asked for the interbranch organization of yours to be upgraded, just like in Italy. Can you elaborate? Regarding interbranch organizations, I think this is as far as we can get. The ministry, too, has done a great deal for interbranch organizations. They realize that this is a one-way street. We implement several programs together with Elgo Dimitra. Elgo Dimitra is our partner now. We provide farmer training together with GAIA EPICHEIREIN. I don't think there is anything more that can be done. During our meeting with the Prime Minister, we discussed the EU cotton label, EU cotton. So the Prime Minister got that. Good for him, I must say, and he said that he's very much interested in promoting EU/Greek cotton in Europe. We told him about the foreign brands in European countries. We sent that file the day before yesterday, so everyone's trying. The opposition parties are trying too. So everyone is seeking solutions here. Mr. Stratakos is the president of the respective working group. We meet once a month. You have the whole of the industry and the whole of the staff from the ministry participating in those meetings. So I don't think there is any more that can be done. I will now give the floor to Mr. Arnaotelis, and the Vice Regional Governor will follow. How about rice then? Interbranch organizations are short of funds. The ministry knows about this. We told them so. We have to find a way to obtain funds, some kind of fee, something on the level of the purchase or selling of the raw material. So if it's €0.50 per ton for purchase, and when the farmer sells their product to the factory, then the factory will sell this within Greece or abroad. And we ask for imported rice to be subject to control, so that we can have a considerable amount of income that will go to the staffing of this agency that will control everything, all the way from what it was that was sown, who did the sowing, etc. So the ministry will use this for subsidies purposes, and we too will know what comes in and what goes out in order to avoid the so-called Hellenizations, that is, having produce grown elsewhere be branded and termed Greek. There is also the Rice Companies Association, and we're doing outreach activities in Greece too, because most housewives don't know that Greece is a rice-producing country. The company of Mrs. Koumendaki last year participated in the event that we held on the premises of the port of Thessaloniki. We will hold the same event this year too, and we are aiming for Zapion Athens in 2026. So we're doing our best to promote rice. Rice is a dynamic product. The gentleman here did not mention this, I think. I said so, says the moderator. Our farmers are satisfied, sort of. Mr. Tsikitas told us about the shortcomings. We need to see what we can do vis-à-vis the multinationals. So if the water is here, then okay, we can accept cotton growers turning into rice growers, as long as the markets are there. Okay, that's an interesting proposal, I think. Mr. Fotinos, you are a rice farmer too, right? I grow rice, wheat, corn, cotton. We're trying to manage our land, and we're trying to make a living in this way. So we are into rural economy, and we're trying to provide solutions in order to be sustainable, and this goes for the clusters that we participate in as well. Regarding the pulses, interbranch organization, its headquarters are in Kastoria. This means that we are for Western Macedonia. We have 2 or 3 prefectures there producing very high quality pulses. We are trying to promote pulses. There are many things that can be done as long as we are willing to work and willing to grow the product, because in agriculture and in rural economy, what you need to do is work. There's no unemployment in our line of work as long as someone is willing to work.
Mr. Antoniadis has asked to make an intervention. Well, let me please first give the floor to Mr. Kefalas, because you said that you also wanted to mention something about the interprofessional organizations. I imagine the role of the state and of local authorities is very important in supporting such groups. Well, first of all, with regard to the question about whether the interprofessional organizations play a positive role, I fully agree that it is, of course, absolutely positive. Interprofessional organizations per product should, or actually do, 2 things. First of all, to find all those participating in the sector on a vertical basis, from production to the final distribution and sale, and agree. And also they need to function as as policy-making tools, because not only should the state decide on the relevant steps to be taken, but also the interprofessional organizations. That's the only way to move forward. We have indeed very successful examples of this. For example, the program for promoting rice by the Thessaloniki Association and EU rice also. This is a Greek and Spanish product, and in an effort to proceed with branding with regard to the national production and in Europe, and the program with third countries, show that we can get excellent results through collective efforts. It is not by chance that the National Interprofessional Rice Organization is a successor to the efforts made by the Thessaloniki Association to continue with the implementation of the relevant programs. In addition to that, up till now, there was not even a minimum level of understanding and agreement regarding transactions within the sector. Let me tell you my own personal experience. Contractual farming has become very trendy in recent years. Well, for those of you who don't remember, contract farming in Greece has been practiced since the 60s. Let me remind you, the Greek sugar industry, the agricultural bank, and the cooperative unions, who basically practiced contract farming even then so well that Greece was self-sufficient in sugar, and we also exported sugar beet seeds, the #1 producer, actually. In 2010, I was trying to draft a contract on the sale of fresh milk from animal breeding farms to the dairy industry. Anything white was called milk, even if it included my own 2 feet. And everybody was trying to cover their own best interest. There was no framework of operation. So after very hard work of many months, we just tried to create a draft contract with specifications, with the requirements of the industry so that they had processed product that could be exported. And it took a few years, actually, then to reach the contract farming model that we know today. Well, this work should actually be done by the national interprofessional organizations. These standards, these forms of collaborations must be set by the interprofessional organizations. I think that's absolutely clear. The national policy should also be formulated by the national authority, the ministry, the state, whatever, and the international organization in every sector. And something more, something I said last year at the GAIA EPICHEIREIN Congress, with regard to cotton in particular. Do you know where Argentine cotton is sold? To low-cost third countries, Pakistan, Turkey, India. Why? Because during the last 30 years, we made subsidies our god, and we're all at fault. And from the 1981 onwards, we lost our national observatory in agricultural policy. We made, as I said, EU subsidies our god, and we lost our orientation, our point of orientation. Now we are finding this point of orientation through the interprofessional organization. I'm not going to name names, but last spring, multinational fashion house that sells designer clothing said that in the next 10 years they will buy from a Greek cotton ginning company and textile factory products coming from the Greek cotton because the interprofessional organization is finally setting specific characteristics and standards so that we decide on one single fiber and seed variety. And I said we need no longer to sell ginned cotton, but rather shirts, jackets, like the Greek textile industry did a few years back with brands such as Tsaklenis. The value of cotton as a raw material from the field is 250 million. That is the net value of the product without subsidies. Do you know how much money we spend each year in Greece for ready-made clothing? 350 million. So we need to reinvent the whole value chain. Something more. I said previously that 88% of the beef consumed in Greece comes from other countries. 9 out of 10 steaks are imported, basically. Well, we can't say they're important because they're EU meat, but anyway, 7 out of 10, 68% of the beef consumed comes from France. So this success of the French in Greece and in Italy has been achieved through the French Interprofessional Beef Organization. They have been running for 40 years this program following market research in their target countries in Greece and Italy. We have 11.5 million people living in Greece, Greek residents and foreign visitors and workers. Italy has 68. We have the second highest buyer. So they have targeted the race and the type of meat we consume in Greece. And now we have this problem. We offer meat to the end consumer that is of a different hardness, color, and taste than what the Greek housekeepers are used to cooking. And they think that it is Greek meat that they are actually consuming when it's French meat, and think that Greek meat is better. So we need, I think it'll take a couple of generations to realize that. Interprofessional organizations are absolutely essential. They need to be supported. And there's only one way to do that, by contributing, and I'm talking about us, the members, by contributing our own financial support. We need to understand that there's no machine that prints money. from our limited profitability in the agriculture sector, we need to use some of our profits, depending on our participation in the sector, in order to be able to finance the operation of the interprofessional organizations so that they can make strategic plans, which is what we're lacking in Greece. Obviously, you're talking about rural areas as well and regional areas that could help to strengthen these organizations. Well, first of all, talking about regional areas, with regard to agricultural development, we are regionally the managers of the agricultural development programs. But even in that case, to a certain extent, the technocratic and political decisions also intervene with regard to mitigating the criteria and potentially doing what is best for our farmers. The region also participates in all the various developmental bodies and the agri-institutional groups so that we can help in these efforts to the best extent possible. Okay, and since we're talking about the agricultural economy of Central Macedonia specifically, we had some data given by the Deputy Minister previously. Could you also tell us how the region of Central Macedonia is contributing to the Greek economy? Well, based on the statistical data available to us, yes, you have recent data, yes, but I'm also telling you my own personal opinion. I think that in many cases, the statistical data and the way this data is collected, it doesn't actually represent the real picture. And I have arguments to support that. But in any case, based on the statistical data that we do have, the region of Central Macedonia produces 26% of the agricultural GDP volume and 30% of the value, which means that this region is agricultural primarily, also industrial, and a tourist region as well. The fact that the value of the agricultural GDP is slightly higher compared to volume means that we're doing something right. We have good agricultural enterprises, good processing plants, good traders and exporters. All these together provide a slightly higher value than the Greek average. Also, looking at the mean size of the holdings in Central Macedonia, we have large valleys like the one in Pella, Imathia, Thessaloniki, which are slightly larger than the Greek average. The age profile of the farmers is slightly lower compared to the aged agricultural population in Greece. And from the data we get about the Young Farmers Program, in the recent call, 3,000 people joined the agricultural profession in Central Macedonia. The budget was 100 million euros, so we had the highest level of new people joining. We managed to persuade the authorities to raise the financing to 100 million, and the main difference in this case is the people joining the sector are very well qualified: agronomists, forest experts, veterinarians, experts in fish farming, also graduates from the American Farm School, agricultural colleges, and vocational institutes, which means that from a quality perspective, these people are better qualified, and usually they're second or third generation farmers. Even my son has been joining us recently in these activities. So these are young people who are bringing with them new ideas, modernization, innovation, a higher level of professionalism. And I believe that although there may be fewer of us in the future, we can make the difference from a qualitative perspective. Previously, Mr. Tzihidis, the chair of the Thessaloniki Association, said that there is much that can be done. Yes, I believe that the region of Central Macedonia can progress greatly in this field. Also, let's not forget that this is a crossroads of many road access and corridors and the railway network. And, of course, the connections with the port of Thessaloniki, Igoumenitsa, Kavala, and Alexandroupoli to a lesser extent. This all creates a major opportunity. Due to the geopolitical upheavals taking place, unfortunately, very close to us in the Middle East, in the Ukraine, at a distance of only 100 kilometers. Also, we have raw materials for agriculture being transported by sea mainly, which means that the cost of agricultural products coming from third countries has risen because the transport costs with regard to maritime transport are 6 times higher. Delivery times have doubled. For example, a container of onions from India used to come in 30 days. Now it comes in 90 days. It used to cost 900 to 1,200 euros per container. Today, the price is 6,500 euros. So this creates an opportunity for us to produce more products here of an added value in the agricultural sector, which could transform the Greek agriculture on a competitive level. The war, for example, has tripled the price of nitrogen-based fertilizers. Some of them used to cost 330 euros per ton and now cost 1,000. So I believe that this is an opportunity. I think that we can go forward with leaps and bounds. Thank you very much indeed. Cotton and rice, mainly export products. Since we're talking about the agricultural economy and what it can offer to the local economy of Central Macedonia, do we have any such information available to us, Mr. Fotinos? What type of data do you mean? I mean financially. What's the contribution of rice to the agricultural economy of Central Macedonia? Well, I cannot speak simply about the region of Central Macedonia, but I believe, generally speaking, rice amounts for input of 250 million. And, of course, it's an export product that is very high on the list, which largely affects Central Macedonia as well. I think that we have reached maximum level with regard to these figures right now. Well, let me tell you, in the past, in Iera Petra, the revenue per capita was high, but nowadays it's in Halastra where the per capita income is highest. So I think that says it all. Am I right? Mr. Tsichitas, in order to conclude our discussion and give the floor to Mr. Antoniadis. Well, I'd like to agree with the Deputy Regional Governor and my friend Yorgos. Central Macedonia is and will be one of the regions where the agricultural economy and producers will continue to work hard. The land will continue to be cultivated, the animals bred. There is much to do. It is an area with good soil, with water. We have 4 or 5 rivers, which means that we will have rice cultivation, cotton, pulses, animal breeding. It is a region that is developing also with regard to fruit, vegetables. A region that is located at the center of the Balkans. And in particular, the prefecture of Thessaloniki. This morning, I was talking to my friend Nikos Tergiou, and we said that we have an added advantage. We have an urban center of 1.5 million people, and all the surrounding areas need to provide high-quality products to these people. And there are also many advantages that we can take advantage of as producer groups, as collaborative schemes, or individual producers. if we manage to take advantage of these benefits, these advantages, particularly young farmers who are entering the sector with great enthusiasm, and I agree with this, we have now highly qualified young farmers entering the scene that can take things one step higher. Agriculture has a bright future. It will continue to exist for as long as mankind exists, because in addition to the work that we do, and I think what we offer is also a service. We offer food to society, and this is a social service that we provide at a very low price. And we do that because we love our work. We don't only do what we do in order to earn a living, but we do it because we love our job, and that's why we do it well. Yes, this is indeed a profession that you need to love in order to do it well. Yes, and I'm sure that is the case with you as well. Thank you very much. Okay, I want to be fair because we're constantly talking about Central Macedonia, but here we have representatives of 3 recognized interprofessional organizations. I'm not going to talk about regional areas or the Central Macedonia, but about Mr. Kefalas Yorgos, the Deputy Regional Governor, and we are lucky enough for him to be a farmer, to represent our interests, representing the region. He is always present whenever problems affect the region of Central Macedonia, and I wanted to make that clear. Thank you very much for this very vibrant dialogue. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience, potentially. There is time. And then I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Antoniadis. Okay, I don't think anything happens by chance. I'd like to congratulate the panel. The case studies presented as successful examples, it has been proven by the personalities of the people that support these efforts that a lot can indeed be done in Greece. By from Mr. Kefalas, Mr. Tsichitas, Mr. Anoutelis, and Mr. Fotinos. This in-depth analysis of the issues at hand, their knowledge, the fact that they work so carefully under the moral umbrella of cooperativism and collaboration. Congratulations to everyone involved. I'd like to make a comment and say something to you, Mr. Fotinos, if you wish, that might be of use to you for cotton, since cotton, along with many other products, is a national product and a dominant product in the market of Central Macedonia. This year, there are going to be fewer hectares cultivated. Instead of 240, less than 200 potentially. We don't know what the price of cotton will be. Contract farming covers a large part of the farmer's concern because he knows that he will sell before he produces. It's not only the price. He knows that he will be able to sell his products before they're even produced. So if we have the same situation vis-à-vis the prices, which we don't know because this is a stock exchange product, the pound is based on the dollar, which has been going up and down like a yo-yo recently. So we cannot make any safe estimates. Potentially will be more or less at the same level as last year. I think that's what you know as well, as you told me. So production costs are always affected by the weather, for example. Some areas may be surrounded by 4 rivers, and that's, of course, a clear advantage. Well, in order to avoid any further discouragement with regard to this product and further shrinkage of its level of production, I think that to the extent that you're allowed from a regulatory perspective, I would like to ask that as for the level of the coupled support, up to 250,000 hectares, 167 million, not to be distributed with regard to its to any outstanding amount to others. I think it would be useful right now to have a discussion as to whether this can be considered part of the annual National Strategic Plan, which can be further remedied. I don't know if that's possible. I'm just making the suggestion, because if this year we have 50,000 less hectares, then potentially there may be a large amount from the unallocated, from the coupled support, that may be more than 40 million. So I'm just putting this forward as an idea that might prove useful. And thank you to you all, Mr. Fotinos, Mr. Naudelis, Tsichitas and Kefalas. I'm particularly pleased to see you all. I know you personally and their activities, and I remember Ms. Kefalas not only from the bank, but also from the dairy industry, Merval, where I was a president for many years, and biogas. So I remember him from the delivery of milk. Thank you very much indeed, all of you. And it's not by fact that you're, by chance that you're doing well, because you are all exemplary in your work. Thank you very much indeed. Your answer? Yes, the question that you have raised, dear President, is something that we have, that others have also asked, producers and also some other people who are wondering what's going to happen about the coupled payments. Let's not forget that this comes under a different regime, however, and Article 4 of the relevant regulation, 1981, which gives a right to the producer to have, or agrees to have 250,000 hectares and 187 million. And as the number of hectares increases, the coupled payments drop. And when the hectares drop, the coupled payments remain the same. At the Interprofessional Organization for Cotton, we have discussed this at the working group with the ministry. It is an issue that is indeed very sensitive. And I think that if we need to touch upon this issue, then we'll do so under the guidance of the ministry and the state, because it could act as a boomerang and lead to us losing an acquis that we've had for many years. So the way we're going to manage this is very critical. Now, with regard to the questions that you raised, this is something that Mr. Tsichitas also is aware of. I don't know if he'd like to say a couple of things about the point you raised. I think we're going to put this to discussion and see whether we need to touch upon this issue or not. Mr. Tsichitas, what about your opinion? Well, yes, I'd like to make a comment representing cotton at COPA-COGECA through GAIA EPICHEIREIN. And through my work at COPA-COGECA, I'd like to tell you that cotton is under a special regime in Article 4, and in order for its coupled payments to change, there needs to be a special procedure and study that justifies this. Right now, as you said, this is a bad period for cotton from a trade point of view. So if we were to change or make an intervention to the regulation, then we are going to potentially give the right to the EU to say, okay, you don't have 2.5 million, but you have 1.8 million, so you don't need the 187 million anymore because your level of production has reduced and you need 150 instead, or 130. No reason. 2,073 euros each, that's fine. So let me explain to you why I see this from a negative viewpoint. They may say, okay, 200,000 hectares, get this money and give the rest of the money to the development program in order for the ministry to decide how they're going to spend it. Cotton is a national crop for Greece. I think it needs to remain at 250,000 hectares without changing the regulation, because no one can touch it and touch this amount and move it elsewhere, because it's considered a European product that is protected. Because maybe in the future things will change in the markets, the dollar also, exchange rate, and cotton may go back to 70 or 75 cents. I'm not talking about gin cotton, because that's lower, 54, 63, it's going up and down depending on the value of the dollar. The dollar goes down, cotton goes up, and vice versa. There's no reason to do that, but there's reason to see how through policies we can reduce production costs, we can change the quality, we can do what the interprofessional organization is doing today, and the Alliance for Cotton, so we have high quality cotton that is ginned and is processed to make textiles and clothing, and get the added value in that way. Because you need to know this, even if the subsidies increase for any product, at the end of the day, it's not the producer who is going to enjoy the outcome of this, but others down the line. So I don't think there's any reason to change things as they stand right now. And from my experience as producer, I support that opinion. And thank goodness cotton is under this regime, because what about the other coupled payments? They 1 year, 44 euros, and then down to 24, and then to 33. So I don't think there's any need for this product to end up in the hands of policymakers and for its management to change. And that's our opinion on this. And I think we agree, because we work together in all these respects, the interprofessional organizations and with the authorities. Please don't leave yet, because Professor Avgoulas would also like to make an intervention.
Θέλω λίγο την υπομονή σας, διότι
I would like to ask you for your patience, given that, well, I've known 3 of your 4 panelists for many years now, and I'm impressed by how strongly the Vice Regional Governor feels about the farming sector. These are the products that I used to work on when I was at university. Indeed, cotton is our flagship product. Cotton is being accused of depleting the soil and of needing so much water, but I must tell you that cotton returns back to the soil 70% of what it gets out of it. And thank God that cotton is protected by the 1980 Protocol number 4, when we became an EEC member country on an equal footing. This is when cotton regulations came into effect. In 1985, Protocol number 4 was extended through Spain, and thankfully Spain had a lower number of cotton hectares, and you know that it takes a unanimous decision of the heads of state or government of the member states for Protocol number 4 to change, and I hope this never changes. If we consider the value of the equipment that is involved, it is thanks to cotton that ginning factories and textile factories and dye factories and oil mills work. You know that oil is an edible product. I don't think I need to explain this any further. In 1994, we had 450,000 hectares with cotton here in Greece. So it's not possible for cotton to be replaced as crop. My university professor used to tell us that agriculture is a financial activity just like any other activity, and if it's loss-making, then farmers will walk out of it. Regarding crop restructuring is something that I have devoted about 20 articles to. I shouldn't have done that, though. As my university professor was saying, in order to replace crop A with crop B, we must find a crop with an equivalent yield. And let me proceed with rice. You know, rice is a valuable food. 75% of the energy required to survive is obtained out of rice on an international level. We rank first in the EU when it comes to the average area-based yield. So we cannot be risking all that by means of sterile discussions and arguments, pointless discussions and arguments. This brings me to pulses. In the last 4 years, I'm Greece's national representative in SIAM. SIAM is a Mediterranean organization made up of 13 member states, 6 of whom are EU member states. The remaining 7 are African countries. SIAM mainly deals in upgrading and promoting Mediterranean agriculture, and in its remit we find 4 Mediterranean agronomic institutes providing postgraduate degrees, and here we have our own Chania Institute. The other one is in Bari, Italy, in Montpellier, France, and in Saragossa, Spain. Bari, Italy, is right now working on food self-sufficiency in the Mediterranean and on pulses. SIAM has created a huge network. It's PIM Meta Network. They will be meeting on June 5th and 6th in Bari, Italy, in order to promote the growing of pulses in the Mediterranean basin. Pulses and leguminous plants, therefore, are just magical in the full sense of the word, because they are the only plants absorbing nitrogen, storing it in their roots, so they do a great deal when it comes to nature's nitrogen economy, thus bringing down greenhouse effect. They are the ideal plant with which we can do crop rotation. They have protein of high quality, and they have zero fat content. It is indeed, pulses are indeed the poor man's meat. This is what we used to have in the underdeveloped countries. They aren't called underdeveloped anymore. They are now called developing countries. In Greece, we are not self-sufficient in pulses, and pulses are a valuable foodstuff. Pulses regenerate the soil, allowing it to rest. We have already tabled a proposal to the ministry, and we know that here in Greece we have 600,000 hectares lying bare. So we need incentives so that part of this bare land starts being cultivated, and we can have chickpeas and wheat. On that land. They are the easiest plants to grow. As a former professor of mine, Kostas Galianis, was saying, he wrote two marvelous books. One of those has to do with alfalfa and lucerne, and the other one has to do with the leguminous plants that can be used as feed. We have actually suggested that burgers, sausages, and soy sauce, almost all of it is genetically modified. Well, all that can be replaced by lupine, which we used to have in antiquity. Lupine is much tastier. You should know that. Well, thank you. Since we are discussing farmers' cooperatives here, let me point out that in your folder you will find this leaflet written by Mr. Piriotis, our Brussels correspondent. In this leaflet you will find 9 mistakes about what is commonly thought of cooperatives. Our panelists are the living example of correct cooperative management. Cooperatives have a role to play in each and every village, a financial role to play, I mean, and there is a benefit for anyone participating. However, we have never tried to measure the financial benefit for non-members. Cooperatives are the yardstick. So what's the purchase price for the cooperative? What's the selling price for the cooperative? And local markets adjust to those prices. So even farmers who are non-members get the benefit out of cooperatives.
Έτσι θα αγοράσω κι εγώ. Λοιπόν, αυτό προς διευκρίνηση για να ξέρετε ότι...
This is just a clarification on my part. I wish to stress that non-members reap the benefit, despite the fact that they choose to throw accusations at cooperatives many times.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, οδεύουμε προς τη λήξη των εργασιών του.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of this Congress. I wish to thank our moderators for the fact that we do not lag behind time-wise. So let me give the floor to Mr. Tripitsidis for his end note. Thank you so very much for your active participation.
Καταρχήν, θα πρέπει να πούμε ότι κλείσαμε πολύ πιο ευχάριστα από...
Well, we are winding up on a markedly more pleasant note compared to yesterday. We've had some excellent examples when it comes to working together, and we think that our objective was attained, because this is what we were meant to discuss, the power of working together. We wanted to be able to listen to your own long experience when it comes to growing and selling agricultural products. I will be brief. I don't want to tire you out. I will just try to sum up what we said today and yesterday. This has been a whole 2 days of challenges and opportunities that can be turned to good account in order for the farming sector to become more sustainable and successful. Government officials discussed about how critical technical developments are. The Ministry for Rural Development stressed the importance of a continued effort for supporting the sector in a sustainable way. He said that productivity and competitiveness for Greece must be enhanced, and that the new CAP is a tool for growth. In their news release, the ministry stressed that we have to have smart agriculture. The minister said that technology is no longer the privilege of the few, it is a necessary tool for everyone. The Home Minister said that the new technologies are key to sustainable competitiveness for farming, as well as in order for the rural population not to abandon the countryside. Our speakers discussed challenges such as production on an equal footing for the north and the south, the difficulties faced by the clusters, and the fact that we need to link agricultural policy to young farmers and their own progress. Digital achievements have to be embedded in agriculture in a more successful way. Mrs. Tsiforu from Kopa discussed the new programming period and the dangers when it comes to the merging of EU funds together with digital solutions involving satellite data and high-resolution weather forecasts, as well as high-resolution images and a rerun rate of 5 to 6 times per day. Regarding smart agriculture infrastructure, among the issues discussed, we had the necessary repairs of the piping network used for irrigation. There was also a gloom forecast regarding water availability in the area of Attica. If one takes a look at what happens in the reservoirs destined to provide water supply there, Greek agricultural production is faced with major challenges, including legislative developments and the climate crisis. The situation keeps on changing. Farmers keep receiving new requirements with which they need to comply in order to be paid. Digitization takes time for Greece. There are delays. This is a general Greek civil service problem. The Greek civil service has to adopt a faster rate when it comes to digitization, because right now it takes 6 to 9 months for farmers to be paid. Satellite data must be used. It was also said that we need new legislative provisions that will be pro-digitization and pro-substantive training for our farmers. Fundamentals were discussed too. Things don't look good for production or for the pecuniary situation. Figures are dropping all over the place. Modernization, digital transition, and farmer training can perhaps help us in that regard. When it comes to digital solutions, we've had some excellent examples from Mr. Mamais, as well as from Terra Creta, a company using smart agriculture. And this is how they managed to increase their production while reducing the water that they need by 23%. Yes, sense is such a digital solution. they have it in their cooperative, they have it in their company. AI can also assist those writing, the people that are writing the policies, policy makers, that is. Because AI can tell us about the implications 4 to 5 years from now. AgroCert discussed certification. Animal movements are now being discussed in the EU together with animal welfare. Greek and Cypriot product certificates were discussed. Major issues regarding payment agency accreditation were raised. Our way of managing funds has to comply with the new CAP that is already underway. Greece is lagging behind quite a lot. So Greece must do all it can in order not to lose this money. Minister Papasteriou discussed the need for data state ownership so that the state can give that data to farmers afterwards. The question here is how one can maintain such an effort. Countryside networking is also very important. Based on the above, we consider that we managed to bring out the need for a new sustainability and innovation strategy. We had an excellent lineup of experienced speakers from the state sector and the private sector, and we think that this is what the farming sector needs. We need to work together, the state sector, the private sector, in order to ensure that digitization delivers and in order to ensure that the next generations of farmers will keep on producing in a sustainable way. I wish to thank our audience. We had more than 250 people on site and 1,500 people online. I wish to thank our sponsors and a big thanks to our moderators. I wish to thank them very much for abiding by their time limits too, as well as the GAIA team that worked for this conference to take place, and our technicians for enabling us to go online. Thank you.